There are well over 50 herbs and spices that are common to our kitchens and cooking that are outstanding healers. This course will cover several of them, most of which you likely have on hand and are familiar with. The definition of home remedies is simply prepared medicines or tonics. And in this course, we're going to extend that definition to include simply prepared healing foods and teas. The course will cover herbs, which are the green herbaceous parts of plants. And it also covers spices, which are the seeds, such as the peppercorns, fennel, cloves, and even includes sparks, such as cinnamon. You won't need any special equipment for the course. A strainer or tea ball is good for making tea. And while this course does cover what to do for non-emergency health situations and discusses helping to prevent more chronic conditions, the course is not intended to treat serious medical situations or intended to replace consultation with your healthcare provider for serious chronic conditions. What the course is intended to do is to empower you to manage many health conditions at home with ease and with speed. So let's jump right into the herbs and spices. Many of us put black pepper in a lot of the food we eat, and we're not alone. In the Middle Ages, black pepper was actually considered more valuable than gold. It was called the king of spices. There are a number of different peppers. There's white pepper, green pepper, but really it's the black pepper that we want to use medicinally. And we want to use the whole peppercorns and then grind them up into your food or tea or however you're making your medicine. The whole peppercorns ground up will be fresher, so it'll taste better and it'll have a higher medicinal value. The compound that we're looking for in black pepper medicinally is called piperine. And it's what makes you sneeze if you accidentally inhale some of the pepper through your nose. It's very warming, it's energizing, and very stimulating to the system. And this all does a couple of different things. First of all, it's very good for colds and with cough where there's a lot of congestion in the lungs. And it can even be used for flu. There are a number of other spices that we'll be going through which are really excellent for flu, but the black pepper is pretty good too. And I would include it in recipes during cold and flu time. It also gets the circulation going when it's a bit slow, and so that helps warming cold conditions, and it also helps aid poor digestion. So black pepper can really stimulate the taste buds and trigger those digestive enzymes. And it also helps assimilate the nutrients of some of the other herbs that you might be including in some of the same recipes. So it has a lot of benefits for nutrition and digestion. That stimulating, energizing quality also is really good for brain function and memory. So a lot of us really appreciate black pepper for that benefit alone. With longer term use, black pepper is anti-inflammatory. So it can really help inflamed conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis. Would be really great to include a lot of black pepper for that condition. It's really great to put it in tea with some honey, or you can, especially during cold and flu season, it's very warming in a tea, but you can put it right on your food, and I hardly have to give you any ideas about how to use pepper in food. It's really in most of the recipes or many of the recipes that we see, and I've even seen it in recipes featuring fruit and even on ice cream. So with all of its great benefits, I would encourage you to enjoy your black pepper liberally. Cardamom may not be the most common spice to have on hand, but I always like to keep some around in my kitchen for its medicinal qualities. I usually have the whole seed pods like this, which I can just throw into cooking or into tea, but you can also purchase it in powdered form. It's really great for quickening the mind and quickening the senses. So if you're feeling a little groggy or not really thinking clearly, it's really great to put it in food and tea. It's energizing, really helps lift the spirit, and I love it for that use. In terms of a culinary spice, it was often included in recipes and a lot of Indian cooking recipes, especially for its ability to help digestion and poor digestion. It works by being an antispasmodic, so it's really great for colic, gas, bloating, or when you've just eaten too much food. It balances the stomach acid, so it's really good for either constipation or diarrhea, and it also helps freshen the breath, which is a really nice added benefit. In terms of making a tea with cardamom, I do that in times of colds or flu when there's a lot of lung congestion. Really helps to expel that phlegm and help to remove that. And especially in cases maybe of bronchitis, then I would definitely use some cardamom and make some cardamom, a nice warming cardamom tea. It also relaxes the airways, so it's great for asthma. So if you're interested in clearing things out, whether it's foggy thinking, digestion, or lung congestion, then cardamom is really, really great to use. I will be including cardamom in a recipe on the lesson in ginger later on in this course, where we're going to be making a really delicious chai tea. Cinnamon does so much more than just flavor baked goods. It has a list of medicinal benefits from building vitality to warming the system. It's one of those warming comfort foods that's really great to consume during the colder months. And it's actually really good for colds and flu for a number of different reasons. It boosts the immune system, and it's also decongesting, so it really helps clear up the lung congestion during colds and flu. And it's also antiviral, antibacterial, and really stimulates the circulation. The antibacterial and even antiseptic virtues of cinnamon help to preserve food. So it really can lessen the chances of food poisoning. So really nice to make it in a tea with a little ginger and honey. Really, really delicious. One of the best benefits of cinnamon is its ability to stabilize blood sugar levels in those with type 2 diabetes. So it helps slow how fast the stomach empties after a meal and reduces the rise in blood sugar after eating. So really great to use to help control those blood sugar levels. There's really only two cautions with cinnamon. One is that you don't want to be taking it in huge quantities. And the other is I would avoid it for pregnant women just because it can stimulate the uterus. So I like to put cinnamon in moussaka, which is a ground beef and potato dish. I used to make a big old casserole of it for my father-in-law all the time. He loved it. But really the easiest way to use it is just to sprinkle it on all different kinds of foods. So you can sprinkle it on ice cream is my favorite. Yogurt, even quinoa. I'm going to sprinkle it on some oatmeal I just made, and eating this is so delicious I really won't even know that I'm taking my medicine. So always be sure to keep some cinnamon on hand. Cloves are stimulating and warming to the system, and like a lot of the other spices, they're uplifting to the spirit and can really help sluggish digestion and even nausea. But where cloves really shine is for toothache. And they do this in a number of different ways. First of all, they're analgesic, which means they help to dull the pain. And they do this through a plant compound called eugenol. So that if you bite into clove, you can actually feel that kind of numbing sensation. That's the eugenol. It also boosts the circulation. So it can bring blood and warmth and soothing to an area that's infected or injured or whatever the case may be. It's anti-inflammatory. So for injuries, it can help reduce the redness and swelling around that injured area. But best yet, the cloves are highly antibacterial. So if there is an infection, it works really, really well for that. So use cloves for any kind of gum disease. It's perfect. I would use it for gingivitis, periodontitis, or any other kinds of gum inflammations. To use it, you simply take the powdered cloves, just put some on your finger, and just rub it right into the affected area, and it works wonders. I have also used tea bags of cloves. When I was a little girl, I had my wisdom teeth removed, and one of my first herbal medicinal experiences was when the area where the tooth was removed became badly impacted and infected, and the dentist suggested that I use a tea bag of cloves, and it worked wonders, so I would highly recommend it. So look for a recipe that includes cloves in the lesson on ginger, where we're going to be making a wonderful chai tea. Fennel is a really versatile plant to incorporate for food and medicine both. First of all, it's a spice, which is the seeds of the plant. It's also an herb, which is the leaf part of the plant, those feathery leaves. And then it's also a vegetable, which is the bulb of the fennel plant. So really, it's all three, and all three can be used for food and medicine. The flavor is reminiscent of black licorice or anise. In fact, I can smell it right now. It smells absolutely wonderful. Not everybody appreciates the smell and the flavor, but I happen to just really, really love it. It's a great quick fix for digestion. So for gas, bloating, colic, it's really great to just chew on some of the seeds after dinner. Really helps freshen the breath. So if you've just eaten raw garlic, which I highly recommend in the lesson on garlic, is to eat raw garlic. Really hard to get rid of the garlic breath afterwards, so I highly recommend having some fennel seeds on hand. And it's often made into an aperitif, just for as a digestive after dinner drink to help with digestion. The seeds are also a phytoestrogen. So what that means, it's a plant-based estrogen that's not made by your own body. So it's what we would call a dietary estrogen. And you can put that right into your food for times when there's PMS or cramping. It's really, really great to incorporate it, and even just chew on some of the seeds again. For longer term use, it's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. So this shows a lot of promise in some of the more chronic ongoing diseases, such as arthritis and even for cancer. So how do you find fennel in your food? How do you incorporate it? You can make a tea out of it, but it's used a lot in meats such as sausages, like Italian sausage, pepperoni, salami, even meatballs. But I really like to incorporate it into dishes like fish dishes, rice and lentil dishes, and even vegetable dishes. And you can use the seed, the leaf, which is the herb, or the vegetable. So let's see how creative you can get and see if you can come up with some wonderful recipes for use with fennel. Basil is so wonderfully delicious, most of us don't associate it with medicine, but it really is a versatile and valuable herb. Topically, it's antibacterial, so it's great for acne, insect bites, stings. You can make a strong tea with it and just apply that with like a cotton ball directly to the skin. Or you can even just take a small piece of leaf and crunch it up and just apply it right directly onto the skin. Basil contains eugenol, which is useful for pain relief, and it's similar to the COX inhibitors like aspirin or ibuprofen. And basil has really great benefits for headache, especially when there are tension headaches or stress-induced headaches. Not only is basil an antispasmodic, so it helps release some of that tenseness, but it's also a mild sedative. So it's really helpful for those anti-stress effects. It normalizes cortisol, which is the hormone that's released during stressful situations. So this is really helpful for stress-induced insomnia or nervous irritability that leads to fatigue, depression, anxiety, or just general melancholy. Basil is just really uplifting to the spirit. And it's also calming for the digestion. So when there's nervousness associated with it, it can help really ease that stomach tension and ease gas and cramps and even nausea. And for the longer term use of basil, it's antioxidant. So what that means is that it's helping to reduce the production of free radicals that can lead to cancers. So basil is often used as an adjunct therapy or complementary therapy for cancers of the liver, stomach, and even lung. So in the next lesson, let's cover one of the best ways to use basil. Basil tea, either with fresh or dried basil, is really good for more acute short-term situations. But even just eating basil has its benefit. And especially for long-term, more chronic issues, it's really good to incorporate basil into your diet often. You can find it in pasta dishes, tomato dishes, fish and egg dishes, and even any kind of savory dish. It's really easy to grow, and there are all kinds of really great resources out there if you're interested in growing your own basil. You can grow it outside in the yard or in a container or just even right on the windowsill. When it's fresh, it's really sensitive to cold, so you have to bring it in before frost, or even when I buy it at the grocery store, I make sure that it's not bagged next to my frozen produce. It will darken quickly, and it actually darkens quickly upon cutting it too. So if you're using fresh, it's good to add it last minute to your dishes. And if it's a long simmering dish, then I tend to use dried basil for those. There's a great way to get a lot of basil very quickly, and that's by making a pesto. So the pesto you can put on top of pasta, you can put it on fish. I spread it on salmon. It's really, really delicious. You can put it on crackers, even use it as a dip for vegetables. So it's really pretty versatile. And I actually do make up big batches of pesto during the summer months when the basil is growing really nicely. I do grow it, but I also buy huge bunches of it at the farmer's market. And then I just store it in the freezer for any time I need it all winter long. And you can store it either in ice cube trays. You can store it in individual little baggies that are just ready to go. Take them out and use them. Or even in little small glass Tupperwares is how I like to store mine in the freezer. If you do store it in the refrigerator, just pour a little extra olive oil over the top of it to keep it from turning black. So to make pesto, this is a recipe that I really like, and just about everything in here is medicinal. So this is really, really good food. First of all, I'm going to add 2 cups of basil. This looks like a lot of basil, but this will actually, once it's ground down, will not make all that much pesto. It will go fast. So I'm going to put that in my food processor here. I'm going to add 1 clove of garlic. I do cut it up to help it process just a little bit better so I don't end up with an accidental large clump of raw garlic. That can be a bit harsh. And then I like to add sesame seeds. A lot of people put pine nuts in, but sesame seeds really do have a lot of medicinal value, and these are raw sesame seeds. And I think it makes a really, really delicious pesto. And then a half a teaspoon of salt, or salt to taste, depending on whether you like a lot or a little salt. And olive oil, which also has its medicinal values, and I put a half a cup of the olive oil in. And then I just go ahead and process it until it makes a nice smooth pesto, and it's ready for eating. Peppermint and spearmint are 2 of my favorite herbal flavors. They're also some of my favorite herbal medicine, and when the 2 occur at the same time, it's really quite a gift. I drink mint tea just about every day, and I could either just plunk in a bag of prepackaged tea, but I do grow and harvest and dry my own mint, so I just put it right in a tea ball, and to make it, I just put it right in a cup and throw some boiling water over the top. Mint does have a lot of volatile oils in it, so it's good to keep it covered up while it steeps. Those volatile oils can release into the air and you're losing a lot of your good medicine. So it's really good to just cover it up while it steeps. I happen to have one of these little covers, but you could just put a plate right over your tea. And I'm going to let that just steep for a few minutes. And in the meantime, I would like to talk about some of the medicinal qualities of mint. So outside of being really, really refreshing, it's also really nutritious. It has a lot of vitamin C in it. We don't often think of mint tea having those kind of nutrients, but it also has a lot of beta carotene, chlorophyll. It has a lot of calcium, potassium, magnesium. So it's really quite nutritious. But my favorite medicinal feature of mint is sort of an odd combination of medicinal effects. So first, it's really stimulating to the mind. So I usually have a cup first thing in the morning instead of coffee. Works great for me. Really helps me be more alert, awake, aware. But it also, at the same time, mint is very calming and relaxing. So it's great for reducing stress, anxiety. And so it sounds like an odd combination. You might wonder how the two occur at the same time. And I wondered that for years also. And a friend of mine explained it to me, said it's like getting a massage. So it's very energizing by stimulating the blood flow, and yet at the same time, it has this underlying sense of relaxation. So that makes sense to me. In addition, the other medicinal qualities are antispasmodic for indigestion. So those with irritable bowel syndrome will really benefit from drinking mint tea. I would also combine it with a chamomile tea, and you can buy chamomile prepackaged in bags also, and just plunk them both together right in the same cup. And I think you'll find that over time that will really, really help ease some of the symptoms. Also, next to ginger, mint is one of the best for nausea. It's great. I always put it in my travel pack when I'm traveling out of the country. And it's also really good for children that have tummy aches. So in terms of finding mint in food, it's not used all that often, but it is still used in jellies that are put on top of pork chops. There's mint ice cream and candies. I will be adding to the course a wonderful cucumber mint salad. It's delicious, has mint and cilantro in it. It's very refreshing. You can also find mint drinks. So there's mint juleps, gin gimlets, even peppermint schnapps that are also real refreshing. We're going to be making a toothpaste. So it's very simple. There's only 4 ingredients. I have kaolin clay here. It's a 1/4 cup. And kaolin clay is a white clay. It's used in cosmetics quite a bit. Has a number of different purposes, but it's really, really wonderful for a base for making the toothpaste. So I'm going to put that into a mixing jar and add a couple other ingredients here. I have a teaspoon of sea salt and a teaspoon of baking soda. And these are ingredients that a lot of people have on hand. You might not have the peppermint essential oil, but it's really easy to find it at the store, health food store, co-op, maybe even your grocery store. It's pretty common. And you only need a few drops. It's really strong. So I'm just going to put 4 drops in. Comes out really fast. You got to be careful. And I'm going to cover that up and shake it up really well. And I've only made a little bit here. To use it, boy, I can sure smell that mint. That's just really amazing. Shake that up really good. And to use it, I'm going to just mix it with water to make a really nice paste for using as toothpaste. You don't want to make up more than about a week's worth because it just won't last all that long. So wonderful way to brush your teeth with very, very healthy, wonderful ingredients. So in the meantime, I'm just going to sip my mint tea and I'll see you in the next lesson. You might find it surprising to learn that oregano is as much of a medicinal herb as it is a culinary herb. In terms of its culinary use, it pairs really well with basil. And it's interesting that for some of its medicinal properties, it's very similar to basil. So you can use it for really calming and soothing anxiety or nervous tension or insomnia, irritability. Wonderful for those kinds of uses. In terms of its calming qualities, it's also really antispasmodic, and this is where I think oregano really shines. It's antispasmodic for really spastic cough that's just really hard to control, and it can be due to colds, bronchitis, whooping cough. No matter what the condition, oregano is just really, really wonderful. I make a tea for that condition because it's also very warming and soothing. The oregano is antibacterial, antiviral, and antiseptic. So I put it really high on my list for any kind of infections or afflictions that are involving the lungs. I have a really great success story using oregano for lung conditions. I really helped successfully treat my husband with a really bad lung and cough condition when we were in a really remote part of the world, and it was the only thing that I had access to. I used fresh oregano, but dried would work just fine. What I like to do is make a tea, a fairly strong tea. I would use a heaping teaspoon for 1 cup of water and just put it right in the pan. I have a pan of hot water here, and I'm going to cover it up. Similar to basil and thyme and a lot of the other savory herbs, they have volatile oils in them, and they can quickly release and disperse into the air. So you want to keep it covered while it's steeping and keep those volatile oils in there. And then when I'm ready to pour the tea after about 10 minutes or so, I can just use a strainer, put it right on top of my cup, and just pour it right in there and sip the tea. I would sip probably about 3 or 4 cups throughout the day until the conditions subside a bit. Since the oregano is highly antibacterial, it's also really good to put it into foods to help prevent some of those nasty germs from multiplying. It's really effective even on E. coli and salmonella. So it's really actually very good to incorporate into your food. Most people add oregano for their flavor. So it's synonymous with Italian cooking. You see it a lot in meats and sausages, but you find it in stews and pasta and pizza and lasagna. You also find it a lot in Mexican dishes and in Turkey and even in a lot of other countries. They incorporate it into their cooking. So it really is fairly worldwide. A lot of people use it dried. But fresh is really nice too. And if you do have access to fresh, you can even just rub it onto sore muscles or joints. It's very helpful for arthritis and rheumatism. So great to use it that way. So hopefully you now appreciate oregano in a whole new light. Rosemary is a wonderful herb if you need to work on your brain function. It's considered a cerebral tonic. So it stimulates the brain function by increasing the cellular uptake of oxygen. So it's really wonderful for concentration and memory and even headaches and depression. So it really helps reduce that nervous tension, and it's just very, very uplifting. And rosemary is also anti-inflammatory, and it's one of the best antioxidants. So it's really helpful for long-term chronic conditions such as arthritis and even cancer due to carcinogens. Rosemary is also very good for the heart, so it helps lower blood pressure. It's a circulatory stimulant. And it's also really wonderful for digesting fats and starches. So you'll see it often a lot in meat dishes or even bread dishes. You see it used for pizza, vegetable dishes. I really like to put it on roasted potatoes. Today we're going to be making herbal vinegar with our rosemary. Very simple to make, so I'm just going to take some sprigs and pop them in a jar. So it'd be nice to have a jar with a tight-fitting lid on it. And you're going to want to use about a quarter of amount of rosemary to the amount of vinegar. So I would say 1 part rosemary to 4 parts vinegar. So I'm going to put that in my jar and then just fill it up with the vinegar. I'm going to cover this tightly and let it sit in a dark place for about 2 weeks, and then strain it out and it'll be ready to use. And there are all different kinds of ways to use herbal vinegars. I like to use it in salad dressing. Very simple. So once it's strained out, then I just mix it with a little olive oil. I would use 1 part vinegar to 3 parts of olive oil and shake it up really good. And you can add salt and pepper and even any of the other herbs and spices that we've talked about in this class would make a wonderful, wonderful salad dressing. So enjoy. The botanical name for sage is salvia, which means to save or cure, which is a pretty impressive name for an herb that we pretty much bring out once a year to stuff a turkey with. But sage cures in a lot of different ways. It's very calming and helps brighten the mood, especially during an illness where it helps rebuild strength and vitality. Sage is really wonderful antiseptic for colds where it helps clear excess mucus. And I really like it as a remedy for sore throat. I've been using it for decades for that purpose, and it works really, really well. It's a very effective solution for sore throat. It eases the pain of a sore throat, and it also eases inflammation. So I like to make a gargle with it. It is very simple to make. I have a cup of hot water here, and I'm just going to put in a teaspoon of sage and a teaspoon of sea salt. And I'm going to cover that and let it infuse. I'm just going to let it sit in here for about 10 minutes. And then when I'm ready to use it, I just strain it right into my cup and then go ahead and gargle. Don't be shy. Get it down in there. And the gargle is also really good for inflamed gums, canker sores, and even laryngitis. Sage is also found in a lot of fatty meat recipes where it aids digestion. So really a wonderful herb to keep on hand, and it's time that we really take a new look at sage and bring it out of the spice cupboard more often. Thyme is not only a great culinary herb, it's a great medicine with a lot of virtues. It stimulates the thymus, which is the gland that's responsible for the immune system. So by boosting immunity, we are encouraging the body's natural defense system to kick in. So this is really similar to oregano, in that it's antispasmodic. So it's really great for any kind of lung problems and spastic coughing, and it's really good for colds in general. So it's wonderful for sore throat, head colds, stiffness from chills. Wonderful herb to always have on hand for that. The thymol, which is one of the most wonderful, powerful antiseptics, is one of the major compounds in thyme. And it can be used topically for all different kinds of purposes, not only acne, but also for any kind of wounds, infections, and even for athlete's foot because it's antifungal. For colds and flu, you can just put thyme right in your food. It tastes really great. It's a pretty powerful herb, so you want to use it sparingly, but it goes into a lot of stocks for soups and stews. You can put it on meats and poultries, vegetables. I'm going to show you a recipe today that I really like. In fact, it's great for colds and flu because just about everything in it is medicinal. It's a really wonderful recipe. So here I have sauteed some onion and garlic until it was translucent. I did that in a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to add, these are white beans, or you could use cannellini beans. You can use canned. I did already boil these. I like to use the dried beans, but canned it will work just fine. This would come out to be probably about 3 cans worth, so quite a bit. I'm going to add that right into the onion and garlic and add a few other ingredients here which are really beneficial. Some sun-dried tomatoes. So here we have a lot of our vitamin C. There's about 1.5 cups there. And these are just julienned into pieces. And then we have a little red pepper and a little black pepper, both wonderful, wonderful for colds and flu. You can add both to taste depending on how strong you like it. I tend to like a lot of both, but not everyone else does. And then finally, we're going to add the thyme. I have about 3/4 teaspoon here, so it's kind of a lot. You can, again, just to taste, add a little bit more if you think you want. I'm not going to add any salt because the sun-dried tomatoes are already so salty. I think it's fine, but if you feel like you want to add a little salt, you can. This is a great dish to add all kinds of other herbs to that are beneficial for colds and flu. Basil, it goes really well in here. Sage is delicious in this dish. So experiment, play around with it, work with whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to heat this until it's heated through, and it can be served either warm or cold. Really great dish. This is one of those that I love to bring to potlucks because it's just ready to go and you can just set it out. Cayenne is one of the most popular spices. It is consumed by a variety of cultures worldwide, and it comes in all different kinds of forms. There is the powdered cayenne that you can buy at the store, or there are chili pepper flakes, and there are also chili peppers that come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and colors and go by all different kinds of names. I always find it kind of interesting that for a spice that is so valued for its culinary fire that it's called chili. When you're working with chilies, just be really careful not to rub your eyes or they will sting. And if you put chili in food or medicine that gets too hot, water won't help quell the fire. The only thing that will really cool that off would be milk products, or even cucumbers are really helpful. So cayenne and chilies are just really high in vitamins A and C and other minerals, including potassium and magnesium. And they're also really high in antioxidants. So it's capsaicin that we're looking for. That's the compound that's in cayenne that is used medicinally, or that's really helpful medicinally. And it's a great heart tonic for all different kinds of reasons, especially for irregular or weak heartbeat. It can help lower the blood pressure. It can help regulate cholesterol. It's really a wonderful circulatory spice, not only for the heart, but also for the brain. So if you need a little pick-me-up, reach for some cayenne. It's always guaranteed to help work. And it also increases the circulation out to the extremities, so the fingers and the toes. Here in our very cold Minnesota winter, some people actually put cayenne into their gloves and mittens and into their socks, which really works. It's really effective. It's a little bit messy, but it does work. And the heating and stimulating properties of cayenne really helps to open the pores during a fever and really sweat those viruses out. And so it's also really good for colds and flu to help relieve congestion. So it just really gets things moving in a good way. And that vitamin A and C also really help boost the immune system too. So the warming and stimulating also stimulates the digestion of the system. When the bowels are a bit sluggish, helps release the saliva and stomach enzymes. Also decreases appetite while increasing metabolism. So that's really a great benefit. So let's look at some of the ways that we can use cayenne in the next lesson. There are countless ways to use cayenne, and I'm going to show you two that you probably haven't thought of. The first one is Aztec cocoa, which is a wonderful, delicious, ancient Mayan chocolate drink. Fabulous, and it's very simple to make. I have a cup of water in here heating, and I'm going to add 2 squares of dark chocolate. The darker the better. I like to use 74% cocoa or more for just the best medicinal value. And then you can add cayenne, as much or as little as you like, whatever your tolerance level is. I'm going to go ahead and add a dash of cayenne to it. And I'm just going to let that sit until the chocolate melts, and then it'll be ready to drink. The cocoa has flavonols in it, which have a lot of the same benefits as cayenne. So it's really good for heart health, helps lower the blood pressure, regulate cholesterol. Can help lessening the hardening of the arteries. So wonderful for increasing circulation and blood flow, even the circulation to the brain. So it helps mental clarity really well. So if you really want to amp up your endorphins, this is a wonderful drink. Those endorphins are the signal to the brain to release the feel-good hormone. So it's sort of a euphoric rush. So I can't wait to drink this. In the meantime, while this is melting, let's go ahead and take a look at another way to use cayenne, which is using it topically. So let's check that out in the next lesson. While I'm finishing up the Aztec cocoa, I'm going to show you another way to use cayenne that you probably haven't thought of. This is an external application to be used topically for pain, and this can be used for shingles, bursitis, sore muscles. You can even use it on sore joints for arthritis. And what's happening is the capsaicin that's in the cayenne actually works, builds up a tolerance to substance P. And substance P is what tells the brain to transmit pain along the nerves. So we're going to try to diminish that. And to do that, you really need to use this for a few days. It might cause a little bit of redness and irritation at the beginning, but that will subside. And this is really simple to make. I have a 1/4 cup of olive oil here, and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the powdered cayenne to it. And that's it. Those are the only two ingredients. And I'm going to cover that up and shake it well. And you can let this sit in a sunny windowsill for a couple of weeks and let that infuse. But if you need it right away, a faster way to do this is to put it in a pan of water on the lowest possible heat that you can and let it sit there and infuse for about 30 minutes, and then it will be ready to go right away. And if you don't want to make the oil, you can actually even use the powdered cayenne directly on your skin, and it stops bleeding. It's really wonderful for that, but I warn you that it will sting. So I think my cocoa is now ready, so I'm going to thoroughly enjoy this. And next time you encounter cayenne, just think of all of the amazing work that it does. If you had only one herb or spice in your kitchen for medicine, garlic would be it. It's one of the greatest healing medicinal plants that we have. Most of us don't think of it that way because it tastes so delicious, but it really, really has wonderful medicinal qualities. In fact, the National Institute of Health has over 3,200 studies showing the medicinal value of garlic. It can be used for both acute situations and for more long-term chronic illnesses. The list is actually really pretty long. It's good to have fresh on hand, especially if you're traveling. It's surprising that even in remote locations, you can always seem to find garlic. And it has definitely saved me more than once from all different kinds of ailments that I wasn't able to resolve with anything else. But garlic has always seemed to do the trick. So it can also last for quite a while, even without refrigeration. So that makes it really good for travel too. So it's good to use it fresh. It's always best to use it fresh, but you might want to eat some parsley or fennel seed afterwards to help with the garlic breath. What's happening with the fresh garlic is that when you chop it, the compound that we're looking for in it combines with an enzyme to create allicin, and that's where the valuable medicine is. So you want to chop it and then let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then go ahead and just eat it. And it can be a bit harsh for some. Some people can tolerate it really nicely. If it does cause discomfort, then it's really good to make pickled garlic. You can find it in the grocery stores more often, but sometimes it's not always there. So it's really good to make it yourself, to have it on hand. And it also tastes better. It's really, really delicious. And it's simple to make, but you do have to plan ahead a little bit. I'm preparing some right now that we'll go through in the third part of the garlic lessons. But for right now, let's go through some of the uses of garlic. So I've talked about some of the general virtues of garlic, but now I'd like to go into some of the specifics. Garlic is absolutely my first go-to for colds and flu for a lot of different reasons. First of all, it helps stimulate the immune system. And it also improves circulation, so it's very warming to the body during cold situations such as a cold and flu. And it's also really good for the respiratory system. It's an expectorant, which means that it helps you cough up and expel that phlegm and get it back out of the lungs. It's also antimicrobial, which is a term that kind of is all-encompassing, means that it's antiviral and antibacterial. And it's a broad spectrum antibacterial. In fact, it has even been shown to be effective against antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria. So that's pretty impressive. I've even used it on staph infections. Internally and externally, it is antiseptic, so you can just cut one of the cloves and actually apply it right to an afflicted area on the skin. And you can even do that for athlete's foot because garlic is also antifungal. For longer-term use, garlic has profound effects on more chronic diseases. So it's highly antioxidant, highly anti-inflammatory. So it's wonderful for the cardiovascular system, can help lower blood pressure, help lower cholesterol, slightly blood thinning. So it's a bit helpful for those who are prone to clots and stroke. It also lowers blood sugar levels for those with type 2 diabetes. And so with all of these antioxidant and anti-inflammatory and immune boosting benefits of garlic, It just makes it a natural against warding off cancers. So this is a very, very powerful medicine, definitely something you always want to have on hand. So have I convinced you to make some pickled garlic yet? So we're going to make some pickled garlic. It is really simple, only takes 3 ingredients and a little bit of patience. So I've just finished peeling all of my garlic. You want to make sure to try to not nick it or it will turn a little dark. It won't harm it in any way, but it just won't look as aesthetic. So you're going to take your garlic and put it into a jar with a tight fitting lid, and then fill that up with tamari. You can use vinegar. I happen to like the flavor of tamari better. And make sure you cover all of the garlic. We are going to cap this tightly and let it sit in a dark place for 3 weeks. That is where the patience comes in. It's helpful to put a label with a date on it so you know when to go on to the next step. Once the garlic has infused in the tamari for 3 weeks, you can strain off the liquid and reserve that tamari. Tamari, by the way, if you're not familiar with it, is just like soy sauce, except it's a little bit less salty. You can find it at any good quality grocery store. You are going to keep half of the tamari that you strained off and then mix it with an equal amount of honey. Then put that back over the garlic and let it sit for another 3 weeks. So this is really a remedy that you have to plan for. After that second 3 weeks, you do not have to strain it again. You can just store the pickled garlic right in that tamari honey combination. The pickled garlic is really quite delicious. At this point, you should refrigerate the pickled garlic and use it within a few months. Snack on a clove or 2 a day, and if experiencing a cold or flu, eat a few cloves twice a day. Ginger is a wonderful medicinal herb, whether using it externally or internally. Topically, it's used as an anti-inflammatory for joint pain and arthritis. It can actually even help repair joint damage and damage to cartilage tissues. I just boil a cup of water. I would put in about a ½ inch of the rhizome. You don't have to peel it, just slice it and put it in the water and boil it for about 10 minutes. And once it is cool to touch, put a cloth into the liquid and place it on the affected area and cover it with a heating pad. And I would leave that on for about 20 minutes. Do that about 3 times a day or as time allows. And over time, you'll find that it's really effective for that purpose. Internally, it also helps the joints by helping to eliminate toxins that have built up in the joints due to poor digestion. So it's really good for digestion in general and excellent for nausea. One of the best herbs for nausea, regardless of what kind, whether it's morning sickness or motion sickness or vertigo, or even for those that are undergoing chemotherapy or coming off of anesthesia, or even for food poisoning. It's just really great for all of those. In addition to that, it is my second to only to garlic for colds and flu. It's excellent in all different kinds of ways. So it's very decongesting for the lungs. Also, it's very warming, very good for sore throat. Excellent remedy for that, and really good for poor circulation. It's antibacterial and antiviral. And it also helps circulation to the pelvic area. So for those that are experiencing menstrual cramps or PMS, really good to make a nice, soothing, warming ginger tea for that. So whether it's joint health or nausea or PMS or colds and flu, ginger is just really good to use fresh also. You can make the tea, but you can also just nibble on it too. It's a little hot, but not as bad as garlic. And it's actually really quite delicious. You can purchase it pickled. It comes in jars at the grocery store. And there's also ginger candy, which is really delicious. And yes, even though it's candy, it does still have medicinal value to it. We're finally going to make that chai that we've been talking about. This is such a wonderful tea, not only because it tastes so good, but just about everything in here is excellent, excellent medicine. A lot of the spices that we're going to be putting into the chai have a lot in common. They all are great for colds and flu and boost the immune system. They all are wonderful for anti-inflammatory conditions. They uplift the spirit and also help aid digestion. So here's what we're going to put in it. I have 1 cup of water here on the stove. I'm going to add 2 thin slices of fresh ginger. You don't have to peel it. You can just go ahead and put those right in. I have 2 cardamom pods, a half a stick of cinnamon, 3 little black peppercorns, and 2 cloves. And I'm going to cover this and let this simmer for about 10 minutes. And when that is done, I'm going to go ahead, take it off the stove, and strain it right into my cup. And once I've done that, then I can go ahead and add my tea bag. So I'm going to be putting some green tea into the chai, which has wonderful medicinal qualities all of its own. It has a lot of polyphenols in it. So it's anti-inflammatory, like a lot of the other spices that we've included. Also really antioxidant and anti-cancer. And it really also is good for mental alertness because of the caffeine. So this really enhances the drink quite a bit. Then you can sweeten it with a little honey, which has a lot of medicinal qualities all on its own. Sweeten it to taste however much you like. And some people even like to add a little bit of frothy milk on the top of it. I tend to not do that, but a lot of people do. And traditionally in India, that is how the chai is consumed. So just imagine for a moment, if you replaced 1 cup of coffee every day with a cup of the chai, the health changes could be absolutely dramatic. So I encourage you to try some of this chai.